we'll just see when I'm done. But I mainly kind of wanted to focus, energetically speaking, on Imbolc, which is officially tomorrow. So, and good. Thank you, Angela. I love doing these. It's not that I don't love doing them. It's great. But yeah, there was just something like I just wanted to like cozy up with a cup of tea and just be like, ugh. So it's all good. I'll do that afterwards. um, Imbolc, which is spelled Imbolc, is a really like kind of like a neo-pagan Sabbath or holiday. If you practice any kind of like earth-based spirituality with kind of like Eastern or like a European type roots, you might be familiar with Imbolc. It is a cross-quarter day holiday. And what that means is that it falls between the winter solstice and between the spring equinox. So it's of course like Groundhog Day is on February 2nd, which can kind of have some correlations as well. Of course, we kind of know the kind of almost more like urban myth because it's not like mythology, of Puxatawny Phil, right? I mean, there are kind of older roots in that, but the stories of if the groundhog sees his shadow or doesn't see his shadow, that is going to determine how many more weeks of winter that we have. So of course that is there's a reason why Groundhog Day on February 2nd is obviously close to Imbolc, which is officially like February 1st, almost like sunset to sunrise February 2nd. So it's a kind of it's in the evening, but of course you can celebrate it however you choose to do so all day. One of the goddesses associated with Imbolc is Brigid. And there's also different pronunciations like Brig, which would be like more Gaelic or like Old Irish. And you'll see it spelled several different ways. But Brigid is the main deity that is associated with Imbolc. And she is sometimes seen as like a fertility goddess. She's definitely not in her fullness like that we would have in like the spring and the summer, but it is just like a tiny little spark and a tiny little beginning of what is to come, agriculturally speaking, energetically speaking. And for me personally, I try to appreciate all seasons, but I am really not a winter person. I don't like being cold. I don't like having to bundle up to even try to be remotely warm. We just had a crap ton of snow in East Tennessee, which I was really honestly excited about because if it's going to be cold, I would rather it be cold and snowy, and then I can just bake bread and curl up to the wood stove and just be like, I'm snowed in. Like, I would rather, I mean, I made soup like the first day and like just ate on soup all week. Like, that's my jam if it's going to be wintertime. Now, of course, we know now for those of you who are, in any area that was impacted by snow, uh, now we're just in like mud. It's muddy, it's soggy, it's still kind of cold. It's not like single digits like we had. But it's just kind of gross out. And the sun is slightly increasing, the length of days is slightly increasing, but it's still kind of dark and gray and all of that. So we did have some pretty sun earlier today for a little bit, which was really nice. But whew, man, I do struggle with winter. But when we kind of come to Imbolc, we kind of come to this halfway point, like I said, between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. It's like we're halfway there to spring, right? We're halfway there to the first official day of spring. And of course, the spring equinox is already like equal day, equal night. And then it will be like the days are really going to be getting like longer and longer and longer all the way through summer. So for me, trying to be grateful of all seasons and the sometimes polarity of like, um, I said the other day, like, oh, well, I might not appreciate warm weather if it was just warm all the time. But I'm like, dude, if I was like, had an ocean nearby and a coconut drink in my hand, I would probably be okay. But, anyway, perspective. So anyway, but this time of year, and like I started thinking about it even before in bulk, but this time of year I start getting a little antsy for spring and like plants and starting seeds and planting the garden and all of these things because like it's coming, right? I know when I first started growing things for a garden, and it was, it would have been like some tomatoes and like some herbs and stuff when I very very first started like container gardening a long time ago. The first year or two, I was so eager and so excited to start my little seeds. I probably started them like right after New Year's because I'm like, well, I'm just going to get them started and I'm just going to get these things nice and healthy and then I'll transplant them, into my garden when it's ready. Well, they started, they sprouted. But I don't, if you do any gardening or seed planting or things like that, like there's something that's called like when a plant, like a seedling gets leggy. And it's just like it gets kind of like, it starts as like, yay, I've emerged, new life, and then it start like reaching for like light, and it gets like really kind of spindly and weird, and it's actually doesn't, it's not strong, it's not really gonna thrive in that state. And this was many, many years ago, like I didn't have like grow lights or, anything like that. I mean, this was like trying to just like put them in the, where they could get some daylight through the window in the hallway, for, a little bit. So anyway, yes, those seeds will germinate. I mean, you can get seeds that germinate like, in all kinds of ways, but to really optimally not only germinate but grow, have healthy roots, have that healthy first structure of the stem, which of course is how it's going to take all of the nutrients, water, up until its leaves and all of that. Like you really need certain optimal environmental things to really for that plant to turn into a very healthy plant and to really thrive. So unless you have, a greenhouse that has heat in it, light that is going to supplement the shorter daylight that we still have now, and the time and environment for starting those seeds right now for your outdoor garden, which is still going to be in a couple months, then it's probably not quite time to start those yet. Even though we're feeling a little antsy, we're really feeling like I'm ready because we're ready for spring, right? And so, yes, like what I've just said is, I guess, like my experience and like kind of practical advice, maybe regarding seed starting and gardening, but it can also be looked at as an analogy for kind of where we are energetically right now. Um, and it's it's kind of it's another in between time. Like we have in between time kind of between Halloween or Samhain and Yule, because Samhain is like the it's the end of the harvest, it's the end of the year, and then Yule is like, okay, like baby sun energy, but it's still freaking winter, and it's just like, well, okay, I see there's a start, just like a tiny, tiny spark, but we're not really, we can't do much with it yet. It's just like gestating. And so I kind of see the time between the winter solstice, and Imbolc is again kind of this another in between time. And we look at these different like earth-based paths, this pagan spirituality, wheel of the year, all of that. It's very much agriculturally based, astronomically based, as well, because we're like humans who used to grow all of our own food, or the livestock or animals that we raised for milk or for meat or whatever it was, they were affected by the cycles and the seasons. So, I think that for so many people, when they work with either the pagan wheel of the year, or you're Wiccan, or you're just kind of witchy, or whatever it is, and you work with these different kind of seasonal holidays, cross quarter celebrations and quarters, solstices and equinoxes, um, then I think that it kind of revisits and reminds us of things that our ancestors did. It helps reconnect us to those cycles and those seasons, because modern life, modern technology, and all of that, although there can be some fantastic innovations, we have for quite some time really kind of gotten away from being of the earth, right? So it's a way for people to connect, to remember. And if you know okay, so let me just have a little tangent for a second. So you may have ancestral memories of honoring different um energies, cycle seasons, like your ancestors did, as a group or a clan or a tribe or whatever. You may have some of that memory and energy stored in your DNA. Um, and obviously, this is like northern hemisphere, okay? Because whereas we're experiencing winter right now, if you're in Australia, if you're in South America, or like in Africa, it's the opposite. So we're in winter, they're in summer. So, and then of course, if you're at the equator, it's just summer all the time, right? Um, Not really, but kind of it feels like it. Anyway, so I'm kind of speaking to, if you have an ancestral lineage, that would be in the northern hemisphere. So this would be wintertime, right? And your ancestors would have also experienced wintertime at this time. So this is my tangent. That was the prequel to the tangent, tiny tangent. So this is something that I believe or understand about memories stored in our DNA, ancestral lineage, all of that. Well, I believe or adhere to reincarnation and different versions of reincarnation. I pretty much think, believe, feel that uh, in the grand scheme of things, time is not linear. We can go back through like our like pedigree with ancestors, our parents, our grandparents, our great great grandparents, and all that, and then obviously kind of like how that timeline works. We can have different dates and times that would be in the past, correct, right? But when we're really talking about energy, and we're really talking about all of the potentials and the possibilities of like who we are as this little like soul spark, this tiny little fragment of the universe, time is really not linear. And so there is a very likely possibility that everything is kind of simultaneously happening. So whether you see that as timelines, kind of that concept, or parallel realities, or the multiverse and Marvel speak, there are uncountable, unlimited possibilities, potentials, not just in realities, not just in viewpoints or vantage points, but also with like your lineage, who you are. Your DNA on a physical level in this timeline, where you come from, where your ancestors come from. But there's also the whole many other layers of, well, who were you in a quote unquote past life? What other versions of you and experiences are you having that are uh, not even an earth being, right? Or you're not a human. Maybe you're some kind of mishmash of human, or you're an animal, or a cloud, and for 3 minutes, whatever it is, we're energy. So this is not to I'm not saying this to discount or get a get out of jail free monopoly card when it comes to cultural lineages and wisdom that is passed down through generations and families and practices and all of that. But it is also acknowledging that yes, we are humans. I'm a human right now. That is my experience. I'm assuming y'all are too. But this is really, when we look at the really, really big picture, this is the universe experiencing itself as, us as our own individual beings, and that we really have access to so many experiences, so many memories, so many lineages, so many um, aspects of everything that is, not even just on our planet. So I'm not trying to be like, yeah, I'm being cosmic, but I'm just saying, like, you can kind of like get your brain tangled in a knot if you think about it too hard. You just kind of have to relax into it. So th- that is all to say that, let's say that you do not have physical DNA lineage, ancestral memory stored in in your cells, of this time being wintertime, of lighting a fire, to still bring in more sunlight, you know, blessing your milk bearing livestock at this time of year, asking breed to come in, and or Bridget, to come in and bless the fertility of your animals, right? Maybe that's not in your ancestral memory, but if you feel drawn to work with these energies, and you can even look at more you know the story, the mythology, a as a story, and as an analogy for the energies that you're wanting to work with, that you're experiencing. um I feel that's true, what really resonates and what is true to you. And who's to say that in parallel timelines, realities, that you aren't even in that more ancient time as another fragment of universe experiencing itself, where you are celebrating those cycles and seasons and energies. So that's kind of my take on that. I'm not trying to get into like a big talk about all of that. I think I have done that before. I'm not sure if it's been in my lives, but definitely in my classes. But however you're working with the energies of Imbolc, whether it is more like archetypal energies, or it's more literal energies, or it's more recreating things from your ancestral line, like, uh, it's all good. It's all good, because our human experience is just a little blink in reality and time, and yeah. So Imbolc, for somebody who's like vegan or doesn't do animal milk, um, I'm sure you can substitute something else as an offering to Bridget, but buttery things, milk, sheep's milk, cheese, all of those things are appropriate, like altar type offerings, if you're wanting to celebrate, or maybe make something for the holiday. But to me, regardless of what you do or how you celebrate, or if you don't at all, just really kind of checking in with, where at the halfway point between winter, the solstice, and spring. Like, we're halfway there, which to me is very heartening. To me is very helpful to, quote unquote, get through winter. And I definitely feel by this time, by the beginning of February, which is tomorrow, um, that now I'm like, okay, I'm officially ready to start dreaming up my garden, making the plans, getting the seeds, inventorying, what I have left over from last year, what I saved, whatever. Um, and then getting ready by the end of the month to get some little seedlings going. And depending on what agricultural zone you're in, depending on if you have heat, additional lighting, all of these things, a greenhouse, whatever, like, yeah, you could have started seeds 2 months ago, I guess, like, right? But just for me, just kind of like working with, our area here in East Tennessee and with, not only heat and light, but then also with the energetics of we're still in winter, but spring is coming, then that's why I choose to kind of let myself finally start planning for seeds for garden and then get them going by like the end of the month or the beginning of March. The last couple of years, I didn't start any seedlings. I just direct sowed seeds exclusively. I didn't start anything inside. And I did that for the last couple years actually. And it was I mean, certain things were just like, "Cool, this is what we're gonna do," and there are certain plants that you they don't transplant well, like carrots are one, but there's certain things that you do just really benefit from direct sowing, but certain things really do need a little bit more of that care and attention and do benefit from, being transplanted as a healthy little seedling when it starts to warm up a bit. And so, you can do your research on all of that. But uh, I'm going to do a little bit of both this year. Get some seedlings started and then also do direct sowing as well. And I didn't even plant tomatoes last year because I had probably initially about 500 volunteers that came up. And that was from at the end of the growing season, like, I had a bunch of, like, little cherry tomatoes and, like, grape tomatoes and stuff in containers, and I just let the last little bit of tomatoes just kind of, like, dry on the vine. Well, winter came, everything kind of just, like, went down into the soil. Well, it didn't compost, and so it was so exciting for me to when it starts getting, warmer, spring's, coming, and then I'm like, "Oh my gosh, are those babies?" Those baby tomatoes. I mean, and like I said, there were so many. There were so many tomato plants. It was nuts. Uh, and I'm the kind of weirdo that I know it is better to thin your seedlings, to kind of look for the hardier ones, the stronger ones, and just to give them that breathing room and stuff. But I struggle so badly. Like, I'm just like, I want to save every single one. I just want to be like, oh, I thinned you, but then I planted you here and then I'll just gift you to people, like I want them all to make it. I want them all to make it. So, all of them did not make it, with all the little ones that came up. But I was like, well, we'll let nature take its course, we'll let it figure out. So, yeah, yeah, I guess I need to be more of a hard ass when it comes to gardening, but I do really, I'm really challenged with having to make that tough call. I mean, if my survival absolutely depended on it, yes, I'd have to be more discerning, but um, I love doing this, and yeah, I just want all the little things to grow. So anyway, I do have at the shop, I do have some organic heirloom non-GMO seed packs left from the 2023 growing season. They are still viable. They are really, really healthy seeds. They're packed in North Carolina, and each seed pack looks like a tarot card that they designed for like that certain plant. There are a couple of flowers left, but most of the seed packs are like herbs or veggies. So I do have those at the store right now. So if anybody's feeling that, like kind of wanting to get a few plans made or whatever, we do have those at the shop. But I'm kind of on the fence. I'm kind of considering whether or not I want to bring in more seed packs for the next couple months. Just because I'm going to be using them anyway. And I really like to adhere to the non-genetically modified, organic and heirloom as much as possible, because heirloom seeds there are some seeds that are from a long, long time ago, and these are kind of preserving, these kind of original seed varieties instead of a whole lot of fiddling, by humans, and they tend to be very disease resistant and more pest resistant and healthy and viable. And then, of course, with these kind of three components, especially non-GMO and organic, but then also with heirloom, I mean, it doesn't hurt, is that if you are doing your seed saving, meaning, you let some of your green beans, kind of like dry on the vine or on the bush, or, you save your seeds from your flowers, from your tomatoes, whatever it is, and you're going to use those for the next growing season, that they're actually viable, because seeds that have been modified, that have been changed, tweaked, or sometimes, when they're hybridized, do their thing. They flower, they fruit, but then their seeds are not actually fertile. They don't produce future generations. And I think that, as amazing and beautiful as some different hybrid varieties of things, especially like flowers, are, um, that sometimes it is kind of dangerous, like if you do not have plants that can reproduce. They're supposed to. And so I encourage you to try to, if you can, go organic, go non GMO and heirloom as much as possible. Another thing I'll tell you about too, for anybody who's local in the East Tennessee area, and then I'm sure you can maybe search this. You can Google it, or like maybe social media or whatever, but there is, at one of our local libraries in Sevier County in Seymour, there is, inside the library, the book library, there is a seed library. And people donate seeds, whether they have excess seeds that, packs that they didn't plant, they did their own seed saving, and people put the seeds in packs, put them in the library, and then people check them out, basically take the seeds, and it's free. It's absolutely free. And you can also, donate seeds to the seed library. And it's so cool, because it's free and you can get lots of interesting varieties of things. And there's, East Tennessee, there's a lot of really like old timey varieties of seeds and stuff there too that people have donated. So check that out if you're local. And then if you're not in this area, just do a little digging and searching. It could be like the agricultural extension office, like one of our local greenhouses. Stanley's actually did a seed swap a couple days ago too. So you'll be able to find maybe resources where you can not only get some free seeds, because I know, like, when I've, the organic, the non-GMO, those are a little like more expensive than like going to the Dollar Tree and getting seeds. They're also going to be a lot more viable. But if you're like, I planted the biggest garden ever or whatever, like you can spend a bit of money. So anything helps. But then of course pay it forward. Pay it forward and share some seeds, if you have excess as well. So anyway, those are my Imbolc musings, my Imbolc thoughts. And even though we've talked about maybe some very practical things this evening, as far as gardening and starting seeds and all of that can be metaphor for your life too. All of this information, right? And so maybe take that into consideration as we're feeling maybe a little bit of seasonal depression, a little bit of like low energy, whatever it is, in this kind of other in between time. But know that there are things that you can do, whether they are things that are more like close to home, that are more introspective, that are more in still that kind of hibernating, planning type energy, that, before you know it, spring is going to be here. And whether you're going to do a garden, whether you're going to just get out and travel and enjoy the warmer weather, explore, or you have certain goals that you're really wanting to put into motion, sometimes it's a good time of year to start a goal or something, right? A lot of people are like New Year's resolutions, but man, I'm not really ready to get anything going till like, after February. So yeah. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I feel so much better. I'm so glad that I did this and I didn't flake on you guys. But thank you so much for, hanging out with me and for your comments. And um, yeah, next week we will talk about the new moon. And I hope you have a great Imbolc. And I will see you very soon. Thank you so much. You'll have a good night. Bye bye.